Okay, so I may have exaggerated a little bit in the title, but I do think that fan art is one of the highest forms of art out there and is regarded with way too little respect. This week's drawing will obviously be fan art, but of two fandoms. I will be drawing Plaything Miku from the Vocaloid song Plaything as Pomni from the Amazing Digital Circus. I am deep in both these fandoms right now, and I'm really enjoying exploring both Vocaloid and the Amazing Digital Circus so much, and I haven't been this excited for fandom stuff probably since My Chemical Romance obsession died down a few years ago, but I will probably do a rant on why I love Vocaloid so much in the near future, so subscribe if you want to see that. Anyway, I think the theme of Plaything is in line with Pomni's character and the Amazing Digital Circus in general, so I want to draw her like that. The speed paint will be spliced in between the whole video, so enjoy! I'll start off with a little story. When I was trying to get into art school, a piece of advice I got a lot was to never put fan art in my portfolio. Some people said it showed I was unprofessional with my art, especially if it's fan art from children's media or, let's be honest, any animation or cartoony style media. But honestly, I don't really see the difference between making Gravity Falls fan art and recreating a Van Gogh painting. They are, of course, completely different genres of art and require different skill sets to make, so you can't compare them in that sense, but the concept stays the same. You admired a piece of art and you want to show homage to it. And don't think that, by definition, a cartoony style is easier to do than a realistic style. I've seen plenty of artists who specialize in realistic styles greatly struggle with trying to stylize a character. But anyway, although I agree with this in the way that most people who will be judging your portfolio and therefore your chances in the art world will look down on fan art, that doesn't mean it's worth any less. I would even argue it shows a glimpse into what I would consider the definition of good art. My take on this is that fan art in your portfolio will show what you are passionate about and what that passion can create. What is your skill level when you are making something you are truly passionate about? I will take one of my favorite artists as an example. Matthijs Maris was a very unusual painter for his time, and his two brothers and father were also painters, and they encouraged him to make landscapes because they make money. Here is one of his landscape paintings, and here is one of his paintings in his preferred style. Can you see the difference, apart from the style, of course? When I went to an exhibition of his art, it became even more clear to me. In the landscape paintings, it felt like it was work for him. It showed his skill that he obviously had, but some of them even looked a bit unfinished, like he wanted to put it away so he could work on the paintings that he obviously put more time, effort, and love into. Of course, I could be wrong, because Matthijs Maris died in 1917, so we will never be able to ask him if I was right about how I interpret his work. I can see the same passion and love when looking at fan art, because there is literally no other reason to make it other than the enthusiasm you feel for that piece of media. Yeah, you could sell unofficial merch or make some ad revenue off the song you made, but most people making fan art will not see any monetary return on that fan art or progress their career in the slightest because of the aforementioned looking down on fan art I was talking about. I get that I am kind of running in circles, because the thing I'm saying proving that fan art is, in my opinion, such a pure form of art is also what I wish would lessen, because I would very much like it if fan art got more respect outside of the online art community, but I hope you can still follow what I'm saying. To me, one of the most important things about both making and viewing art is the feeling that went into it and the feeling you get when looking at it. This has been a way of defining art for a while, so I don't think I'm saying anything revolutionary. This is another reason why AI art is not valid in my eyes. There is no exchange between the artist and the viewer because there is no artist. This exchange does not need to be the same among the artist and the viewer, as in what the artist was trying to convey doesn't necessarily need to be the same interpretation of the viewer, but there needs to be an exchange, in my opinion. And with fan art, there is such a powerful exchange because there is this piece of shared culture that the artist and viewer have in common. I think this is even more powerful than sharing culture on a national or generational level because you chose this piece of culture as something special to you. It wasn't just something you were born into. Now, I might go off the rails a little bit with this part, but stick with me. This is also why I have such an admiration for religious art. Even though I'm not religious myself, I can feel the passion that these artists have for their god and the art they make for that god. Is there any form of art that could contain more passion? Of course, Five Nights at Freddy's art is not the Sistine Chapel, but I'm trying to draw parallels here. I think the passion in this art is tangible. The love that fan artists have for this piece of media, I think, comes across greatly in a lot of pieces, even when the skill level isn't there yet to express it. Spending your time drawing something or making a song for your favorite show or movie is such a pure expression of that love, in my opinion. To the point where sometimes I see fan art for a show that I have never heard of, and I can still see the excitement that the artist felt while making it. I think this is most exemplified in the enormous influx of fan art that gets created after a new episode airs or a song gets released. The excitement that creates such motivation to create is wonderful to see. I saw so many pieces of fan art of this My Chemical Romance concert right after it happened. I also wanted to draw it immediately when I saw it, but I didn't get the chance. And it was so cool to see other people drawing it, and it felt really validating that other artists were inspired too. And isn't that cool in itself? Not even that the band My Chemical Romance inspired artists to draw something, but one moment in one concert had so much emotional impact that so many artists wanted to make an actual piece of art inspired by it. I think anyone in fandom spaces knows the feeling of being so excited for something that it feels like you might explode. Expressing that in art is so cool. I'm sorry to talk about the Amazing Digital Circus again on top of it being this week's drawing topic. But I am so deep in the fandom right now, and I'm so hyped for the finale to come out that I literally can't stop myself from talking about it, especially in a video about fan art and fandom. So because I'm so deep in the fandom right now, I've been consuming a lot of fan content, and it warms my heart to see fan animations that obviously took at a minimum weeks to make. Long as fan fictions, I mean fan games, they probably took forever, and oh my god, the fan songs. I think this passion comes across so well in fan songs, even if you aren't an artist or a musician yourself. And the Amazing Digital Circus has inspired quite a lot of fan songs, even with the official voice actors, which I think is just the coolest thing ever. It makes me even more happy that indie animation is having such a moment right now. Aside from such passion being shown in these types of projects, the history of fan art is also quite long. If you don't consider Catholic art to be Bible fan art, then modern fan culture arguably started with Star Trek. And I love that I get to bring this up because I'm also a huge Star Trek fan. Lots of fandom stuff started in the 60s in the Star Trek fandom, like fanzines and shipping, and even fanfiction terms like Mary Sue or /fic. And of course, the biggest ship back then was Spurk, a pairing of Spock and Captain. Fanfiction with this pairing would be labeled as S/K, eventually becoming /fic. Yeah, even though no one is wondering, I do ship it. And another thing, I'm gonna have to bring up the deeply ingrained misogyny in our society again. This is not my fault, it is the fault of generations of men fucking up everything for everyone else. But fangirls. Fangirls do not get the respect they deserve. And the biggest reason for that, in my opinion, is because they are teenage girls. Why is this group of fans lumped together to be labeled as irritating and unhinged? Because they are young women. No other reason. Just look at the biggest thing adult men are a fan of, football. I'm Dutch, so believe me when I say I know unhinged football fans. They will tear up the city, setting fire to every tram stop they see, but the 14-year-old girl with 50 pics of the same K-pop idol on her walls is crazy, sure. I also think that teenagers in general have so much energy that needs to be directed somewhere, and they generally have a lot more time to consume media and make fan art of that media, so it makes sense that they make up a large portion of fandom spaces. But teenage boys get to express that energy and time a lot more freely, apart from being allowed to express their anger more than girls, because boys will be boys, and being allowed to express their opinions in group settings without being labeled as a pushy bitch or a gossip. They also just generally get treated with more respect. And as a teenage girl, wouldn't it be super logical to express yourself in different ways then, especially on the internet, where you can do it in privacy, away from people in real life who might make fun of you? In the past, this came out in different ways, but with the immersion of pop culture, this energy could be directed at the Beatles, or Twilight, or K-pop. Little side note about the Beatles, I think the exact same performative males who now glaze the Beatles into oblivion would be the same guys dunking on them in the 60s, and you know how I know this? Because now they're dunking on K-pop. I don't care which one you think is better music, the fact is that back then it was mostly teenage girls who liked their music, and now it's the same with K-pop. Now they respect it just because it's not just teenage girls who like them. My whole point is that if the point of art is to make you feel something, then fan art is doing a pretty good job at it. If anything, as I said in my previous video, I think creation in and of itself is very valuable. I think it's very special and human, and something we should cherish. And getting inspired simply by seeing the things that other people have created is also something very special. Anyway, I will leave you with this. The longest known piece of literature ever created is a Super Smash Bros. Fanfic, and it has over 3.5 million words. To put that into perspective, the entirety of the Harry Potter series, 7 books, has a bit over 1 million words. Not to mention, I found several Harry Potter fanfictions that contain more words than the source material. Just one fanfiction with more words than 7 Harry Potter books combined. If that doesn't show passion, if that doesn't show what fandoms are capable of, then I don't know what does. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. I just really love fan art. What can I say? And every time I hear like a definition of what good art is, I'm like, that could be so that you could literally just be describing like a Living Tombstone song right now. It's seen as like lowbrow art or whatever. Yeah, I hope you like drawing. See you next week.